first up, this new plea deal announced this week concerning Michael Cohen. He pled guilty to lying to Congress. It was a charge filed by the special counsel. Michael Cohen is the former personal lawyer to President Trump, and this plea deal alleges he lied to Congress about a deal that went nowhere. The Russia investment opportunity the president had when he was a candidate in Moscow. He was thinking of opening up a building in Moscow. Mr. Cohen told Congress it really wasn't going anywhere. It had supposedly died around January or so of 2016, and he only talked a few times with members of the Trump organization about it. So the plea deal suggests that it had continued a little bit further into the campaign season, into just shortly before or after the president was nominated to the presidency, or for the presidency, by the Republican Party, and that he suggested, and he also talked more than he suggested within the Trump organization about it. To describe it, it suggests just how much of a weak tea plea agreement it was. I looked at the plea agreement, I looked at the charging document that was filed. It doesn't really even confirm that he lied. It suggests that he may have not given enough detail, but whether he lied or not, I think it's arguable. But he did plead guilty to lying, and I don't think you should lie to the FBI. I don't think you should lie to the special prosecutor, even if you think he's unconstitutional or abusive. You shouldn't lie because he has the power of the federal government to put you away. But it's all about getting Donald Trump, though, isn't it? Just think about this. There, I think, have been 6 or 7 prosecutions for lying to Congress. I think how often it's done. And they target Trump's lawyer on this. And it's all about getting the word Russia into the news, because Russia is the reason, supposedly, Mr. Mueller was hired. Not to investigate his real estate dealings in Russia, which were public at the time largely, but to investigate whether there was improper collusion between the Russians and the Trump campaign to steal the election. Anything improper in that regard? Of course, nothing has been shown to date. There's no evidence out there was any improper coordination between the Russians and the Trump campaign to steal an election. So therefore, you've got this Russia investigation going nowhere. So, we'll just mention Russia in the context of an unrelated business transaction that went nowhere. The deal was canceled. It wasn't proceeded. Nothing proceeded. Now, the media is making a big play at the fact that Cohen had supposedly emailed or tried to email Putin. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. You're doing a deal in Russia, you deal with government officials. But it went nowhere in the end. So there's nothing being alleged that the president did anything wrong or lied, or that, in fact, his lawyers have said that what Cohen's admitted to saying or being accurate about the Russia deal is exactly what the president testified to in written answers he recently gave to the special counsel. So I see this as the Mueller special counsel desperate to remain relevant and to tell and desperate to confuse the American people that they're still investigating Russia, when in fact they're not really investigating Russia as generally understood by the American people. They're just harassing President Trump. And again, they throw this out there the day the president's leaving for a big summit in South America, in the middle of a tense situation with Russia, because this week Russia has escalated its attacks on Ukraine. It took, I think, some boats in their Coast Guard hostage, or sailors hostage of the Ukrainian sailors. And President Trump said he doesn't want to meet with Putin as a result of this hostile act. And who comes walking in off the side is Robert Mueller with this plea deal, weak tea plea deal, throwing Russia into it, and again, embarrassing and harassing the President of the United States. This isn't about the rule of law. This is about getting Donald Trump and doing whatever it takes to do it. And so I'm not convinced that there's much to this plea deal, and there's probably even less here that meets the eye. But I would encourage you to go ahead and look at it. Go ahead and look at what he admitted to lying about, and you can decide whether or not he even actually lied to begin with, but secondly, whether or not what he admitted to is an issue that is of legal concern to President Trump. Now, of course, the left is making hysterical arguments that this is going to lead to his impeachment and removal and prosecution. I don't see it happening if the Justice Department is being run by adults. But as long as King Mueller is allowed to run the Justice Department, the president should act as if Mueller is out to get him and behave appropriately. And if you can't get him, he'll get his family, or he'll get, as is demonstrated already, his associates. So this is a serious issue in the sense that we have this special counsel that has decided he can investigate anything he wants. His charge is to investigate Trump and find anything he can out about him, which is not the way prosecutors are supposed to work. And again, this is it shows you the weakness of the Trump-Russia collusion theory, which has always been a crackpot theory, I will remind you, generated by Hillary Clinton's Fusion GPS vendor, who worked with Russia intelligence to come up with fake dirt on Donald Trump to give a pretext to their friends in the FBI and Obama DOJ to spy on President Trump and his team, and again, once he's elected, to continue to try to destroy him. So they haven't found anything to bolster those claims that somehow Russia conspired with the Trump campaign to steal the election. So what is now Robert Mueller doing? He's prosecuting people repeatedly for lying to him in the course of this investigation. Again, perfectly reasonable. But let's be clear, these are crimes that would never have taken place but for this abusive investigation, an investigation the Justice Department never should have initiated. The Robert Mueller Special Counsel was created as a result of corrupt acts by the FBI, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, James Comey stealing Donald Trump's FBI records and then leaking them to the New York Times with the specific hope of getting a special counsel to investigate Donald Trump. And of course, it was his friend, Robert Mueller. Oh, by the way, I don't want to forget this. James Comey has been subpoenaed to testify to Congress, right? He just filed a brief, and I think it's being argued this afternoon, that Congress shouldn't be able to force him to testify under oath about his misconduct because Congress selectively leaks material. This man who admitted to leaking material in order to get a prosecutor targeting Donald Trump. A leak that was, in my view, illegal. He stole those FBI records and he leaked them. But this is the hysteria of the Get Trump effort. All the rules, all sense goes out the window. So we have in this context a business deal that was never consummated by the president, just discussed, that was perfectly legal and legitimate, that everyone is up in arms about. And you have Hillary Clinton, while Secretary of State, getting $500,000 personally because her husband got a $500,000 speech fee from a Russia company tied to Uranium One. It was a front for the Russian government. And of course, her campaign, or her foundation, it's been reported repeatedly, has gotten millions from Russia interests who are trying to influence her Uranium One decision making. And who's getting investigated? Donald Trump. That's an outrage. It's a miscarriage of justice. The Mueller investigation should be shut down. It doesn't mean that anyone who has been committing crimes should get necessarily a free pass. If you lie to Congress, you lie to Congress. You shouldn't get away with it. But this investigation would never be taking place. These people would never be caught up. George Papadopoulos, for instance. He lied, and he pled guilty to lying, and now he's serving jail time. He tried to get the sentence turned aside, but he pled guilty to lying to the FBI and the special counsel's office. But he lied about things that were perfectly legal. He had some discussions with people who were arguably working on behalf of the FBI, not the Russians, about emails supposedly tied to Hillary Clinton. And he was embarrassed that it took place after he worked on the campaign, so rather than tell the truth, he said it took place prior to his working on the campaign. And he was a lower level aide by the, on the Trump campaign as it was. And this guy is now prosecuted for lying. Again, a process crime. You shouldn't lie, but let's be clear, he never otherwise would have been investigated but for this Get Trump effort. So whenever it tells you all these people have been prosecuted for lying, well, you know, they shouldn't lie, but let's be clear, they should never have been targeted to begin with. And this is why I always say shut it down, but I also think the president should should pardon. President Trump should pardon those Americans caught up in Mueller's web. Because all things being equal, they would never have been investigated, but for their relationship to Donald Trump. Now, someone like Manafort, who's been found guilty of serious crimes, pardon him. Now he's facing a long jail sentence. Maybe you commute his sentence. But I don't trust any Mueller investigation. I don't trust any prosecution of his. I don't think they were made in good faith. And I think they were scandalous. We know that his whole operation was set up as a result of corruption. So frankly, everything he's been doing, I think, should be second-guessed. And we want the American people to have confidence in the fair administration of justice, and we don't have that with the Mueller operation. Look at the craziness around Jerry Corsi, journalist, and Roger Stone, and emails about their guesswork about when WikiLeaks was going to release these Podesta emails and DNC hacked emails. I don't know who hacked them. The allegation is by the special counsel, the Russians did it. Corsi goes in. I mean, he says he's trying to be forthright. He's sharing all this information. And then his memory's refreshed. And he says, oh, well, maybe I did say this to him at this time or whatever, to Roger Stone about the WikiLeaks email dumps. And the Mueller special counsel says, well, you lied. Well, as opposed to maybe you forgot. And you're happy to tell him the truth once your memory's refreshed. And either way, these guys don't have anything to do with Russia collusion. It's pretty clear. Mueller's special counsel operation knows that. But they got to get their scalps to justify their continued existence as they try to target President Trump. So, this is why Judicial Watch has been investigating what's been going on with the creation of the Mueller special counsel, the misuse of the dossier, asking information about his budget. The president was complaining about his budget this week in tweets. 30 million, 40 million, I don't know what the budget is now exactly. But my view is every dollar spent by an illicit special counsel is a dollar wasted.